Hi all and welcome to my channel, it's Kaz here, and today we are going to be making a cowl. To support my channel, please remember to tag me on your social media posts and share the video link too if you can. Instagram Crafty Kaz33 and Facebook Kaz Harris. Join my Facebook group Crafty Kaz Collective. Thank you all so much. Diolch o galon. Hi all and welcome to my channel, Kaz here. Today we're going to be making a cowl and you're going to need a little bit of bravery, so let's crack on. For this project I'm using an Aran yarn and this is a wool blend yarn. I've lost the label but I have a funny feeling it's a Hayfields, like a cherry red colour. It's really nice. For this project you're going to need a crochet hook, a scissors, a tapestry needle, and some stitch markers are going to be very handy as well. Some fabric clips are also very handy for this project, but you could also use some pins or even some clothes pegs. I'm going to add a fuzzy border to this cowl and I'm using a Feather Touch yarn here, which is going to go around the border edge, and for that I'm going to need a chunky crochet hook, so bear with me, my crocheting skills are not all that grand. For this pattern we're going to cast on as normal, over and under, all the way around the bedding machine, making sure that the yarn is going under every one of those hooks. Yarn in the yarn feeder and zero your clock. Now we are going to knit 120 rows and then we're going to cast off with waste yarn. I'm going to swap over to my adapter to finish the rest. And it's a 4-volt screwdriver, so it doesn't crank any faster than I can by hand. And here we are, coming on the last row, coming up to row 120. There we are. So all we need to do now is to swap over to some contrasting waste yarn, and we're going to cast off with about 6 rows of waste yarn. So I'm using a nice bright yellow colour, which is a lovely contrast to our nice Christmassy colour red. And I'm going to do about 6 rows. That's my go-to for waste yarn, but you can do about 8 to 10 if you want to. I'm going to do 8, I think. There we go. It's 8 rows done. Chop that off. And now to remove our work, we just crank around twice. Yay, off it comes. Right, so now we have knitted 2 pieces. We need to do a little bit of construction work before we knit the 3rd piece. So I've already done 1 piece here, so I'm going to show you what to do with the remaining piece. Stretch out your work, of course, like we always do. Make sure those stitches are nice and straight and evenly stretched all the way down. And we are going to be turning our piece inside out. Now find your cast on tails here, cast off tails, sorry. Okay, and we are going to put those on one far side, left hand side for me, and leave that at the top. And what we're going to do is to level off the bottom of our work here, okay, making sure that the ends are all out. Let's find our tail there, keep that right on the far end like that, and bring it out as flat as it will go. It has to be flat, and put a clip. Okay, so even it all the way out because it does tend to curl. Even it out all the way along. and add a clip all the way along. And you need to do this for both pieces, okay? So even it out all the way so it's nice and flat and matching at the bottom. And this is so that when we move on to doing the next stage, for which we need to be very brave, nothing is going to shift, or shift will be very, very minimal, okay? So continue to do that all the way along that bottom edge for the two pieces that we've knitted so far. When complete, you will have two pieces fastened at the end like that and held with clips. Now they will want to bell out in shape, okay? But don't worry about that for a moment, that's okay. We can try and fettle that in a little bit. Now it's important that you keep your tails on opposite ends, all right? So the next stage is going to be working on the two pieces at once. Otherwise you might end up a little bit awry. So this is what I suggest, is doing it this way. And for this stage you're going to need a ruler and some kind of marker pen or fabric marker. Now I can use a black one on here because I'm using quite a dark shade for this cowl, but if you're using a pale or a white or a cream or something like that, you may need to mark it with pins or a marker that washes out or fades in the air. Now what we're going to do is to mark up 7 inches from this side. So that's 7 inches from that side, and we're going to put a little mark there like that. Okay, and the same the other side. Try and straighten that out a little bit. And 7 inches up on that side. Okay, now if you want to put a pin or something like that, you can. But what we're going to do now is to take that mark, take it right over into the far corner here, keeping our work as straight and level as we can. And we're going to put a slight mark down there like that. Again, be careful if you're using pale colours, because this will show through. And again, that side, all the way down, right to that corner, and mark it with a pen. There we go, great. I'm going to make this a little darker because I can, because of the colour I'm working on. There we go, great. Now, if you have a sewing machine, fantastic. If you've got an overlocker or a serger and you know how to use that well, then this is going to be an easy peasy move for you. And we have sunshine here today, fantastic. I'm not going to moan about that after the storm we've just had. So the next stage, and I'm going to show you 2 ways that I'm going to do it. One piece I'm going to sew on a sewing machine, and then I'm going to do a zigzag stitch, and the other one I'm going to sew by hand, and hopefully then everybody will be able to have a go at this and end up with a beautiful cowl. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the hand sewn piece first. So grab a nice long length of matching yarn, pop it on your darning needle or your tapestry needle ready to go. And what we are going to do, let's put this one to one side for now. On this one, what we are going to do is we're going to sew down this line like that, okay, from one side to the other. So I'm going to remove that clip from there so I can straighten this out a little bit, because like I said, it does fan a little bit, but as we know with knitted pieces, they do tend to do that, and then they can go back into shape. So I'm going to put a little knot on the end there like that. Hold that tail so it doesn't come out, and secure that nice and tightly. Now I'm going to be doing a running stitch, okay, which I'm gonna, I think it's a stab back stitch or something like that is called. So I'm going to pop my needle in about 1 centimetre on and up like that. Okay, so that's my first stitch, and there you can see now where the stitch is going in that hole there. That's where I'm going to go in next. So I'm going to go into that one and in front of that one, about 1 centimetre or so all the way along, and again in through that one and out all the way up to the other side of our black mark. So stitch like that all the way up, and I am going to double back then and stitch it again. Now you can see that stitch line all the way along there like that. So I'm going to put my hand underneath it now so I can do it a little faster. I'm not pulling too tightly with these stitches. I don't want to distort the fabric at all, but as you can see there, that's the kind of stitch line I'm going for. It's going to look very much like a machine stitch, but obviously by hand. And when you are using the same colour thread or yarn, it is difficult to follow sometimes. So you could mark it with pins if you wanted to. Making sure you're going through both layers now, right? Okay, from front to back, all the way through those layers. We are joining these two pieces together all the way up. Following our mark. Here we are, coming back up to our corner. Doesn't take long to do at all. I'm coming right out on that corner there. Okay, then I'm going to hoop back. And what I'm going to do on the way back is I'm going to bridge the stitches. So where you can see a stitch there and a stitch there, I'm going to come over there like that. And I'm going to bridge that stitch then, so I'm going over the join. And I'm going to go back down the same way, the same stitch pattern, all the way, bridging those stitches just for a super duper strong fixing. And they are difficult to see, I have to say. So put your glasses on if you need them, like I do, and I should be wearing mine. And we'll work our way down to the other side. I'm starting to run out of yarn, so I'm going to put a knot there and grab a new piece. Now the next step is the bravery bit, and if you've not done anything like that before, it's going to seem a little daunting, so you may want to practice on a spare piece of knitting that you've got hanging around, or even just do a few rows, 20 rows or something like that, and trial it beforehand if you've not done anything like this before. And I'll pop a nice good strong knot in this corner to make sure that corner is nice and secure. Great, and then I can remove that yarn. I don't need that. I can trim that tail off there. Don't need that. So that's my line of stitches done by hand. There you hopefully can see, even though the sunshine is coming in, there's my line of stitches. Now we can remove these clips, we don't need these anymore. So take all those off, pop them in my little box there. There we go. Now then, the brave part is going to come next. Alright, but next I'll show you how I'm going to sew this on the sewing machine, and then we will have both options for those who don't have a sewing machine and would prefer to do it by hand, and it's pretty quick to do by hand anyway. So here we are at the machine, and I have red threaded onto my machine. I've got my stitch length set to 3, and I'm just going to pop my line there. You can see the line. Okay, I'm going to start on one edge here like that. I'm going to pop my presser foot down, and we're going to start with a few stitches. I'm set on a medium slow speed, and here we go. And I do a slight back stitch, and then just slowly feed through. I don't have a walking foot on here. Not everybody has one of those. I do have one, but I'm just sticking with an ordinary foot here, and it's going through really nicely. And as I get closer to the end now, I'm just going to take this clip off here, because I don't need that one, in order to clear the the stitch down to the very corner. When I get down to the corner, I'm going to do a back stitch like that, and that's it, that's done. Now there is another step to this on the machine. Just trimming that off. I'm going to remove all of the clips here. Okay, I'm going to take all those clips off. We don't need those now. There we go. So now we're going to put a zigzag as close as we can to our stitched line all the way down here. Okay, probably about 2 or 3 millimeters from the stitch line. So I'm going to alter my machine now to zigzag, which is 5 on my machine, number 5, there you go. And I'm going to put the stitch length to 2 because I want the zigzag to be kind of close together. Alright, so we're gonna, there we go, it's on a nice wide one, so we're gonna start there, and again we're gonna zigzag. There we go, there's the zigzag, slight back stitch, and I'm going to zigzag all the way down. And now the reason for this is to mimic an overlocking stitch to seal that edge off. Okay, so we've got our straight line of stitching to form that seam, and we're doing some zigzagging here now to seal it off and to prevent it from fraying once we do the next step. Once we do the next step, you know what I mean. If you are opting to do this project with a sewing machine, then this will help. Alright, so we come into the end. There we are, nice little back stitch. And we are done. Press the foot up and snip that off. Job done. Right, let's go back to the main desk and we'll move on with the next step. So there we go. Stitched and zigzagged. So here we are back at the main desk here, and as you can see, if I lift this up, you can see that we have a row of plain stitching and then the zigzag row here, which is sealing off that because the next stage is rather daring. So what we are going to do, and I'm going to put my glasses on for this one, so I can definitely follow that line down. We are going to grab a scissors. Yes guys, we are going to cut our yarn. We're going to cut our fabric. So there's the zigzag line. So I'm going to cut as close as I can to that zigzag line without cutting through those stitches. That's the plan. So if I can see, all the way down, there we go, and there's our nice angular piece done. And we need to do exactly the same with the other side, but the other side of course we hand stitched because I want to show you both ways of doing it. I'm not going to show you the overlocker version. I have got an overlocker, but I know that a lot of people don't have an overlocker or a serger, so if you have one, I'm sure you know how to use it and you can do it with that. So I'm just checking now that I haven't caught my stitches, because if I have, I can run it back under the machine on that zigzag. So don't worry about these little loose ones here. They're not going to come to anything because they're being kept in check there with that zigzag stitch. So let's move on and let's do the same. You can see where we're going with this now, yeah? That's gonna give us our nice angular shape here. Now, slightly different with the hand sewn one. We are going to have to cut it and then seal the edge. Okay, so that's the plan. So there's your line of stitches, clearer to see on this one because a hand stitch is a little larger to see. So about 1 centimetre from there, cut the yarn. Okay, cut the yarn all the way up. Scary stuff, eh? Maybe you've done this kind of thing before. I don't know, but if you haven't, like I said, if you haven't and you're a little bit nervous, maybe knit up a test bit, a test square or something, and have a little practice before you do the necessary danger work. All right, so I need to get a length of matching yarn onto my darning needle. So we got a nice long length here now of matching yarn. Pop it onto our darning needle, okay? And what we're going to do now is an overcast stitch on here to catch all these to stop them from fraying. Chances are that might be okay, but I want to make it a little neater looking. So I'm going to pop a stitch on the end like that, and chances are this is a little bit too long. I'm not going to worry too much about these loose strands because they're going to be lost inside the seam now once we do the next stage. So I'm going to pop that through there like that. Great stuff, that's caught, but I'm not going to worry about it. We'll just treat that as a knot instead. So we are going to do, you can overcast by just doing over all the way, but I'm going to do a blanket stitch. So as soon as you pull that through, you just pop the needle through there like that. And I'm going to do that every centimetre or so along the length of this like that. And that should seal it. But if you want to do an overcast stitch, then you just go over from back to front all the way along, and that will work just as well like that. Okay, so you can do that stitch if you prefer, which should hold it in place. And once I turn this out, I'm going to test the seam by pulling it, and hopefully my practice one was absolutely fine. So hopefully this will have the same result. So I'm going to carry on now and do this all the way up. I might even do 2 rows of blanket stitch to make sure that it is absolutely secure and it's not going to come out. But there is a final stage of decoration which will also help to keep this in check. And that's also a very, very pretty thing to do. You might need to use a crochet hook for that, but I will show you a very basic couple of crochet stitches. And like I said before, I'm no dab hand at crochet at all, very much a beginner, and very much rubbish at it to be perfectly honest, but I will do my best. And of course there are plenty of fabulous other tutorials on YouTube on crochet that you can double check the stitches on if my explanations are not clear enough. So I'll crack on and finish the end of this now, and I'll see you back very soon. And there's one pass done already, and don't worry about how scrabbly it looks. This is all going to be inside the work. You won't even see that. I am actually going to go over it a second time just to be doubly sure for my own peace of mind. And I suggest you do the same, especially if you're doing it on the hand sewn piece there like that. So I'm just going to double up and go back with my blanket stitch. And there we are at the end. So one final knot and that's done. Trim all these little bits off that we don't need. Don't worry about the fuzziness of this end. We can straighten that out like that. Yarn is at least very forgiving. And now you can see there's the 2 parts before we turn them inside out. Now obviously the sewn version is much neater than my hand version. You may get a better finish than I have here. I'm rushing a little bit not to keep you too long. But whichever option you choose to stitch this up, it should work alright. So let's move on to the next step, and that's turning these pieces inside out. So let's start with the hand sewn one. So literally just pop your hand in and turn it the right side out. And then we can check our stitches and go from there. So what we're aiming to get is as much of a point as we can on this here. It's not quite the same as fabric, because obviously it's quite thick in comparison to fabric, but we do want to, what they say, roll the seam. Okay, so we want to get that seam all the way out. There we go, that's not looking too bad at all. Gonna level that up there like that. Now you won't get a dead on point, I doubt that very much, so I'm going to use the end of my crochet hook here to push this out as much as I can without distorting it too much. There we are, like that. And we can also get our darning needle here, tapestry needle, and pull that out a little bit there to get as much of a pointy point as we can. Alright, now any little bulges and that will get rectified with the next step. So let's test our hand sewn seam, and I'm pulling that pretty tightly there, and that's pretty good because it's been stitched up twice along that stitch line. That's pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. Again, when we do the decorative bit at the end, that's also going to reinforce that seam as well. So roll that seam out like that. So that's going to be our left hand piece, and we're going to do the same now with this one. Turn this one out, and this is the one done on the sewing machine and zigzagged to make that a non-frayable edge. I would recommend you do it on a sewing machine or an overlocker, or serger, if you know them as sergers. If you can, if you have access to one, it would make a stronger fixing, if I'm being perfectly honest, but it is doable with hand sewing. Let's push that out there. There we go. Straighten it all out and take all those bulges out and roll that seam. I usually damp my fingers a little bit and roll it like that, okay? So you just push that seam out. That's what that's rolling the seam means. Okay, so you've got all the spare fabric is being pushed out. Now obviously with fabric we'd iron it, but with a knitted piece like this we won't. So we've got a left and a right. Here we are, there we are, like that. See, that's what we're going to do. We're going to attach these together. Moving on to the next stage, and I've got my hand sewn piece here, my hand finished section, and what we need to do now is to finish the top end here. We need to seal this tube off, and what I usually do is I move my cast on tail to the far left here like that. Now sometimes these stitches can get lost, so I'm going to grab a couple of stitch markers so that I can keep track of my last two stitches. That one there, and this one here. Okay, so they're my last stitches. Now you can count up if you want to, but I find if you keep them parallel all the way up to the end, you will end up with two stitches there and there. So I'm going to grab my crochet hook and I'm going to go from there to there, and I'm sure you've seen this 1,000 times, so I won't keep you too long with this one, and pull through, and then you go to the next bottom one and pull it through, and the top one from the top and one from the bottom, if I can find my stitch, and pull it through. And that's how we seal this top of the tube up like that. So carry on all the way, zigzagging from top to bottom, all the way along the length until you get to the end. And when you've caught those last two stitches, you just pull your tails through to fasten off. So I'll see you in a little bit. Just coming to the end now. My last couple of stitches, and once you've caught them all, you'll have one left on there, and you just pull that through. There we go, that's done. All you need to do now is to remove your waste yarn, and because it's the cast off edge, it's always easier to remove than the cast on edge. So that's why I always recommend, if you only got to do one side of waste yarn, always do it on the cast off edge. It is much easier on the stress. There we go, I'm just going to do that for now. Flop it over every now and again so it doesn't get caught, and then we can pull that out. And we can wind that up then and keep it for the next job. There we go, there's all our pieces nicely sealed up in there, and all we need to do now is to take our darning needle, and we can hide that tail then inside the work. We are going to need a tail for later for mattress stitching up, but this isn't going to be long enough, so we'll cut a fresh piece for that when we need it. You can thread yours further down the piece if you want to, but I'm happy with that for now. So there's that piece done. So you need to do now exactly the same with the other piece here. Okay, so carry on now and do the other one, and we'll meet back up. Next step is to find your center line from the top all the way down to the bottom and mark it with some stitch markers or whatever you use in order to do that, to keep your line nice and straight when you're mattress stitching together. And you need to do that with the other piece as well. I've just done it roughly there because I still need to finish off that tube. So that's the next step, is to mark your center line on both of the longest sides of this. Okay, so the next stage, once you've marked your line all the way up from the bottom to the top, all you need to do is put a long length of yarn on your darning needle and mattress stitch from the tip there all the way up, following that line, keeping it nice and straight all the way up from there to there, and you can knot off then and hide your tail inside your work. So with a long length of matching yarn on my darning needle, I'm going to start at the tips here, okay, and I'll demonstrate quickly now how I do my mattress stitch. And like I always say, I'm not the best at mattress stitch, so I'm going to catch 2 bars there or thereabouts. Now bearing in mind that the ends are going to be slightly knobbly from our stitching up before, and I'm going to leave a tail, okay, and then I'm going to catch 2 bars following my line down this side here, 2 bars from that side, and that's all you do for mattress stitch all the way up, bearing in mind that the importance of mattress stitch is keeping to the same line on both sides all the way up. Okay, and as you go up then you can tighten your mattress stitch by pulling on this side and pulling on the other side. So another 2 bars there. I'm terrible for going for 2 bars and 2 bars. Some people like to do 1 bar at a time. And what I mean by a bar, I'll pull my tail out of there first because it's gotten tangled up. What I mean by a bar is, if you look down your line of V stitches like that, okay, and you put your needle in between, you could see that there are 2 bars. You pull that out and you'll see a bit better then. There are 2 bars there like that, or bars running all the way up, joining those stitches together, and that's what we use to do mattress stitch, is just to catch these 2 bars, pop the stitch through there, pop the yarn through. These tails are terrible for getting tangled up every time, especially when you're using long lengths of yarn. And we keep to that same line of stitches there, and that same line of stitches there for me, and we just zigzag back and forth. So I'm going to carry on and do that now, and I'll see you when we get to the top. Otherwise it's going to be very boring for you to watch me mattress stitch all the way up here. And hopefully, she says, fingers crossed, it'll look tidy, because I have a tendency to wander when I am mattress stitching. So I am sure you're going to do an awesome job compared to mine. Alright, so carry on now and do that, and then we move on to the next stage of our work. I'll just show you quickly now before we do that what we do to tighten up, we'll hold that thread there like that, and we'll hold that, and as we pull you can see that the line of stitches tightens up nicely, and we can tighten that one as well, and we'll knot that later and hide it in the layers. So carry on, finish mattress stitching all the way up the length there, right up to the top, tie off with a knot, and you can hide your tails on both ends, and we'll move on. So I've just finished mattress stitching all the way up the length there. As you can see, it's a nice, oh, I've got a bit of a gap there, but if you do end up with a little gap like that, don't forget you can always pop in and do a little stitch. Okay, I do show you warts and all because we all make mistakes. So all I'm going to do now at the top is to put a little knot across from one side to the other. That's the way I do it anyway. If you've got a different way of doing it, by all means go with what suits you best. That's great. And I'm just going to pop my yarn tail down the gap there somewhere. If I can get it to go down. There we go. That'll be fine. And I'm going to trim that off, and I'm going to do the same now the other side. There we go, that's not looking too bad at all. I have gone slightly out, again warts and all, slightly out on the top there. But with the finishing section that we're going to do, that will sort itself out. I'm going to put a little knot and a stitch across the bottom there to tie those two pieces together. Like that, and again I'm going to pop my yarn tail up through the layers like that. Now the next stage is to knit the back panel. So the next stage now is to knit the back panel for this adult sized cowl. So count your stitches from the bottom to the top, okay, and on the same machine with the same tension, the same yarn of course, cast on with waste yarn, knit those stitches that you've got there, that length, and cast off with waste yarn. Okay, so do that and we'll meet back very shortly. So I've counted my stitches all the way down from the top to the bottom there, following one row all the way down, and I've got 70 stitches. You might very well get a slightly different count, but whatever count you get, that's what you knit. So cast on with your waste yarn for the next back panel, over and under, all the way around. And like I said, for my panel, I need to do 70 rows. So this is the waste yarn that I took off my main pieces, and I like to reuse mine, very frugal. So 0 o'clock, there we are, and I'm going to do my waste yarn. Which has for some reason come up a little short, so easy peasy fix there, just pop another little piece in and that'll be fine. We'll do one more row to tie that in. Isn't it funny how waste yarn does that? Fits one side and then won't fit another. Very strange. No problems. I'm going to loosely tie those waste yarn pieces together so they don't come apart. Now we're going to move to our main yarn. This lovely red colour that I'm using here, and same old 0 my clock again. Not sure why I zeroed my clock for my waste yarn then. I think I got in a bit of a kerfuffle. So here we go, 70 rows and cast off with waste yarn. So I'll see you in a little while. I'm going to move over to my screwdriver attachment, and I'm using this one. It's a 4-volt one. It doesn't crank any faster than I can by hand, which is absolutely fantastic. And here we are with the last few rows now. 68, 69. So get your waste yarn ready now to cast off. And there we are, row 70. So I'm going to remove my little screwdriver attachment. And like I said, that's 70 rows for me. Your row count might be slightly different. So swap over now to our waste yarn. Oops, I'm going to do that by hand. And then we're going to finish off with however many rows this yellow will give me, because I had to rob a small piece in order to finish the cast on part. One more row. And I think we'll call that a day, because I think it's going to be a tad short. And 2 rounds now and your work will fall off. Yay, there's our final piece for our adult sized cowl. Let's move our Addi machine over to storage. And what we need to do now is to just stretch our work out. Isn't that lovely how those stitches just come into shape once you've stretched out? The first time I ever knitted on the machine and I did that, wow, I just thought this is definitely going to be an addictive thing. And hey ho, we're still here, we're still making videos, which I hope you like. And if you do like them, don't forget, like, subscribe, leave a comment if you feel the need. It's always great to get your comments. So next, now what we're going to do is exactly the same as we did with these ends on here. We are going to seal the tube, so I won't demonstrate that again. But like I said, I always put my tails on the far left here. I line the stitches all the way up until I get to the end. Pulling those tails out. That tail belongs down the other end. Let's pull that out to the other side. We don't need that sticking out the other end. That's going to cause problems. Like I said, all the way along the end until I end up with 2 stitches there. And I grab 1 stitch on one side, 1 stitch on the other side. And pull it through. And then zigzag back and forth, like that. Okay, back and forth, catching 1 stitch. And count your stitches if you can, and then if you do as you go along, then you know that you've got all 46, 48, 22, 40, whatever size machine you're using. Okay, so seal up both ends of your tube now, okay, making sure that everything is lined up and caught as you go along. And I'll see you back in a minute and I'll show you the next stage of this make. And I have finished my centre piece here, my section, and I have sealed off one end and I've sealed off the other. Removed the tails by burying them inside the layers there, okay? So I've laid it on top of our piece as it sits at the moment. And what we're going to do now is a bit more mattress stitching, simple as, okay? So I have marked my outer edge of my triangle piece and my outer edge there. I've marked the line all the way down, okay? And I've done the same on the 2 sides of the center section there, okay, and the outer section there. So what we are going to do is we are going to mattress stitch this piece here to that end there, like that, like so. So mattress stitch down that join there, and the same this side. We'll be mattress stitching from there to there, or from there to there, whichever way you prefer. So put some yarn on a darning needle and get mattress stitching up these 2 sections here. Okay, so mattress stitch here and mattress stitch down there, and then I'll see you back and we will discuss finishing options for the edges. Once you finish mattress stitching up that side and that side, your cowl is almost complete, and you can use it like this. Of course you can. You don't have to do the next step at all. I quite like it. If you fold it over like that now, you can see what I mean about the nice cowl that goes right around the neck there and keeps you lovely and warm. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to add some kind of edging. Now there are options. So moving on to finishing the edges, and we have a few options for that, and I'll show you one that I've made as a prototype, and that's this grey one here. Now this is a DK yarn, and as I say, I'm not the best at mattress stitch. I sometimes wander, so the end there is a little bit on the untidy side. So I have made a very small crochet flower with my very basic crochet skills, okay, and I followed a YouTube video, so you can look that up, just a basic crochet flower, and you can pop that there. I thought that would be quite pretty added on the bottom there to hide my slight faults. And remember, if you do make a fault or a slight error on your makes, there's always a way of disguising it some shape, all right? So that's what I thought to do, but this is a simple scalloped edge border there, so you could do that if you wanted to, and I'll put the details on the screen there so you can see the sequence that I used for that. Okay, but for the red one we're going to try something a little different so you can see the difference between the two. So bringing our red one back into play, I was going to do a scalloped edge with a plain white sparkly yarn, but then I discovered I had this feather touch yarn in my stash, which was too thick to go through the machine. And the reason being is that this thread that the fibres are attached to is way too thick for any of the circular knitting machines, and it would break them. So what I thought to do, and I'm going to try this, is to crochet a nice fuzzy little border. So to make sure that my idea of using this fuzzy yarn was going to work, I've already done a row along the bit that folds over, and isn't that lovely? Now what we're going to do is we're going to run it down this shape here, down this triangle shape, and we're going to run it along the back edge there as well. Okay, now when you're crocheting this on, you need to work from the underside, okay, the bit that's not going to be seen when it's folded over. So you'll do your crochet from there. Okay, and for this one, this is the side that's going to be seen, so we need to do our crocheting from underside here, okay, or from the inside here, the inside layer. All right, so I'm going to show you how I did that, and it is a simple single crochet. So I'm working on the inside here now. Okay, so I've got my lovely fuzzy yarn here, which is quite thick, too thick to go through the machine, so I'm just going to go roughly halfway through this middle panel here. I'm going to use those two, what I call coffee beans, and I'm going to pop my hook through there. I'm going to grab my yarn and pull it through, and if you've never crocheted before, this is a simple single crochet, and if I can do it, anybody can do it. Okay, I'm going to pull that tail down there like that, and I'm going to wrap it around, just literally wrap it over from right to left, and make sure that the loop, as you pull, it'll grab that loop and pull it through. And that's a slip stitch, and that means that you've attached with one loop onto your work. And I'm going to miss one of those coffee beans and use the next coffee bean, or thereabouts anyway, across. This is really thick yarn, so it's going to take some twiddling to get it through. You may be using a thinner yarn, so again I'm looping over, so I've got two on my hook there, and then all you do is you pull that through the first hook like that, and I'm using my fingers just to show you, and through the second one like that, and that's a single crochet. Now keep the stitches loose, we don't want to put any tension on this joint. So I'm missing coffee bean loop there, and gonna hopefully go through the next one, but you don't have to be too dead on with this, to be honest. I'm finding when I did the top one there, it just kind of worked out. So we push it through, yarn over, pull it through like that. Okay, make sure it's nice and loose. I've got about a centimetre loop on there. Yarn over, pull it through the first one, pull it through the second one, and that's a single crochet. And we're going to carry on like that, missing one just to give this fuzz a little bit of space because it's so thick. I don't want it too close together, and then we get a nice loose fuzziness. There we go, through the one and through the two, and that's a single crochet. Okay, making sure that loop is nice and loose. Okay, so get my finger straight. I'm a novice crocheter, as you all know. I'm not professing to be any great shakes, so if my instructions are not clear, many people on YouTube that can offer better instruction on crochet stitches than I can. So there we go, through that one and through that one. That's a single crochet, and that's all you need to do all the way around if you decide that you want to finish your work like this. Okay, so through the loop like that, grab that yarn, pull it through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over again in front of those 2 loops, and you pull it through the one loop and you pull it through the other loop. And as you get faster, you can pull that through those 2 in one fell swoop. I'm using my finger to push my hook through the yarn there because it is rather thick, and then you can pull through in one motion. So continue to do that all the way around, and the only thing I will say is when you get to this point here, which isn't the same finish of course because we're at, I'll tell you what, let's finish because I'm nearly at that point anyway. So let's go through and do another couple, and then I can show you what I've done anyway. If you're a seasoned crocheter, then you'll have your own method of doing this, I'm sure. And if you've got anything to offer information wise or help wise to novice crocheters like myself, please leave a comment. I'm always happy to have some extra advice and help from anybody that's a awesome crocheter. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab 1 stitch from one side and 1 stitch from another. Okay, it's sometimes difficult, and I'll go in backwards like that and then forwards like that. But basically you just need to go from the front to the back and do exactly the same stitch again. There we go, like that, and I'm going to pull it through. And you don't got to be too kind of fastidious about where you put these stitches, because about a centimetre is about right. Again, I'm just going to grab a stitch from one side as best I can anyway. There you go. And through to the other side. There you go. That's quite a thick stitch, but it won't matter. It'll be fine as long as you can pull it through like that. Yarn over and pull it through those 2 loops, and that's your single crochet. So I'm going to continue now all the way around the edge here, all the way back to the beginning, and then I will just tie that off, and I'll just snip it. I'll show you when I get there. I'm just gonna tie it with a knot and snip it and let that become part of the fuzziness. So I'll see you in a moment, and we will that'll be it then. That'll be the actual project finished. That will be our cowl with its lovely fuzzy edging done. So here I am at my very last stitch, coming back to where I started from, and push our hook through, grab the yarn, oops, try that again, push our hook through, grab our yarn, there we go, 2 loops, sorry, really hard to see because of all the fuzziness, which is fabulous. And then that's my last stitch, so I'm gonna pull some of that through there like that. Snip that off, and then all we do is we pull that through there like that and pull it tight, and that's the final one done. Now my tail, where's my tail gone from before? I have no idea, it has disappeared. So I think I might have crocheted it in as I was going. Oh no, there it is. There's my little tail. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to tie my little tails together like that. Okay. You might have another more crochet based way of doing it, but mine is just to tie them together there like that. Job done. And I'm going to trim them off short then to match the length of the other work. And then you wouldn't even know it was there. Hallelujah. So there we go. There's our crochet cowl. Isn't that beautiful? And as you can see, all the fuzz there is in the right place, because if you remember what I said from before, when you're doing this, because it's folding over, when it's open like that, okay, you need to crochet from the underside, the bit that's going to fold over and not be seen, otherwise all the fuzz will be on the wrong side. Okay, and then the same for the bottom edge of your work. Lift it up like that. Okay, lift it up and crochet from the inside all the way around, so that the loops and the knots and everything from each crochet, there you go, there's my dodgy crochet stitching all the way around there like that. Okay, that's quite neat there actually for me, isn't it? Whee! Maybe I'm improving, who knows. So there you go, there's our red and white. Kind of Christmassy. I'm a little bit late for it for Christmas, but lots of things going on here at the moment, and I think that's part of the yarn. So I think this is begging now maybe a matching hat and maybe fingerless gloves. So stay tuned. If I've got time, I'll whip them up as well. So there's for you to see. That's one and done in a DK yarn. That was my prototype one. And for that one I did some scalloped edging around there, so you may prefer that to the fuzzy. This is kind of a Christmassy look, but if you change the colours up on this and did it in green or blue or a lovely nice brown colour, and that would look equally as fabulous. And I added a little bit of a crocheted rose there because I'm trying to improve my crochet, and plus it hides a little bit of faux pas with my mattress stitch. So there you go. A beautiful cowl that you can wear, and this part here will hang around your chest area at the front and keep you lovely and snuggy in the cold winter weather. So it's lovely to have you with me again, and if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, like and comment, and join my Facebook group. I'll put a little link up there where you can pop into Facebook and join my group and share your makes with me there and the rest of the group. Have a very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you very shortly with probably a matching beanie with this one, and maybe some fingerless gloves as well, who knows. So have a great Christmas and a very, very happy 2025. I'll see you very soon. Bye for now. Thank you for being with me. Really do appreciate it. Bye for now. Take care.